What is up, my beautiful gemstones? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thanks for checking us out. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing criminals who claim they were mind controlled by aliens. Being someone who has been interested in both true crime and the paranormal my entire life, I've come across some cases of criminals who come up with the most insane and bizarre sounding defenses to explain their criminal behavior and why they done whatever it is they're being accused of. It seems like a lot of the time most criminals will do and say literally anything to avoid culpability and jail/prison time, and honestly, I really don't blame them. We've also discussed on this channel people who claim that they committed crimes because they were hypnotized, and I'm sure we're all familiar with at least one case, and believe me, there are many, where someone's defense was basically, the devil made me do it. However, I came across something this week in my research and reading while looking for something to cover in this week's video that kind of blew my mind a little bit. And that's people who claim they'd been mind controlled by extraterrestrials, and that's why they'd done whatever they were caught doing and or being accused of. Obviously, I had to bring it to you guys, so let's jump right in. In 1993, a 34-year-old real estate agent and financial planner from Tucson, Arizona named Joe Moody carried out a series of gruesome murders. In November of 93, he viciously and violently attacked and killed an acquaintance of his named Michelle Malone, who was 33 at the time, and he savagely beat her and then shot her. It was later found out that he had made her write him a check for $500, and he even made her rewrite a new one when the first one had gotten her own blood smeared onto it. He also robbed 2 guns from her house. At the time, he wasn't connected to the crime, and most people familiar with that case feel like he more than likely would have gotten away with it, except 5 days later, he decided to kill again. This time, it was his 56-year-old neighbor, a woman named Patricia Magda. Moody slit her throat and then bludgeoned her with her own hedge clippers. Just like with his previous victim, he robbed Patricia's home. It was only after Patricia's murder that Joe Moody was arrested and put on trial for his crimes, and that's when things took a turn into this bizarre territory. People who were present in the courtroom during Joe's trial were very unsettled by him. Not only had he committed savage, brutal, and horrifically nonsensical crimes, but he sat there in his chair in the courtroom the entire time with an eerie and very large grin on his face. He didn't seem like someone who was facing the death penalty for committing seemingly random, gruesome, macabre murders, but more like a kid on the morning of Christmas as he looked under the Christmas tree and saw his presents for the first time. He would often wave and show off for the packed courtroom, and he took himself on as a client, choosing to forgo a real attorney and instead representing himself. Eventually, Joe was questioned about his motives for committing the horrible crimes against these 2 seemingly random and very innocent women, and he claimed that he'd been visited by what he called, quote, extrasensory biological entities, end quote. So basically extraterrestrials, and that they told him to kill the women. In fact, he said they did more than just tell him to do it, but that they compelled him through mind control, and he really had no say in the matter at all. Perhaps even stranger, he wasn't trying to use this as a defense to try and get away with it or to get himself off the hook for the death penalty, or really at all. But he merely stated it as fact and went on to take full responsibility, pleading guilty to all charges against him. Joe Moody said he welcomed the death penalty because he knew that the aliens who had compelled him to do their bidding would resurrect him with their technology, thereby finally being able to prove their existence to the human race for once and for all. He went as far as to explain that the reason he'd chosen to represent himself was the fact that the attorney he'd originally had wanted him to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but he was adamant he received the death penalty in order for the aliens to be able to bring him back to life. I have a quote from Joe Moody that reads, quote, "We have finally come to the point where I get my birthday wish. I hope you grant the appropriate sentence to allow me to complete my mission," end quote. He showed zero remorse and had no reaction when he was found guilty and sentenced to death. Unfortunately for him, though, the death penalty would be overturned, and he would end up being sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This happened because eventually it was deemed that he'd been incompetent to represent himself, shocker, at his trial, and he was given a second trial with an actual attorney where they didn't sentence him to death but to life. Joe Moody died on October 7, 2019 in prison of, quote, unspecified causes, end quote, and most people still laugh to this day and make jokes about whether or not the extraterrestrials ever actually resurrected him. However, I would caution you not to just toss out the idea that they might actually have done that. I don't know, obviously, why this man did what he did, but I will never refuse to consider someone's defense simply because it sounds illogical and too far out there. I mean, look at who I am and what I do for a living. How can you blame me? More than likely, he was just insane and a sick person, but there's a chance, in my opinion, that he was compelled to kill people for whatever reason. And as far as the extraterrestrials bringing him back from the dead, people only are thinking about the actual body being risen. But if you've ever learned anything here on my channel from me in these videos, I would hope it would be that when dealing with otherworldly entities, we are usually dealing with the spirit, the soul, or some other ethereal part of our being. It's not always about the body. In fact, it's almost never about our physical bodies. So all I'm saying is that it's at least in the realm of possibility, in my humble opinion, that he was not making all of it up. In early December 2007, a man named Christopher Aaron Rogers went on a murderous and vicious rampage that would end with many people hurt and 2 people dead. This happened in Alaska, where he lived at the time. It started on December 2nd when he killed his own father with a machete and attacked his father's fiancée and their dog in the city of Palmer. After this, he went to Anchorage and shot 3 strangers, seemingly choosing them at random, with one of them dying and 2 others being sent to the hospital in critical condition. It was later found that he'd spent days wandering around Anchorage, skulking around, actually, hopping people's fences and lying low in their barns and garages, etc. He was casing the area to try and see where he could strike and whom he could kill. Obviously, the residents of Anchorage were horrified and shocked once the crimes came to light. Under questioning, Christopher Rogers waived his right to an attorney and immediately admitted what he'd done. He even admitted to the authorities that he planned on killing more people, but he'd been caught before he had the chance to do so. He said he'd even tried to kill some cops for the hell of it, but that his gun jammed and that ruined that idea. When asked what his motive was, he said that aliens told him to do it. He said, quote, "They wanted me to kill a bunch of people. It was very strange, but I tried my best to accommodate them. I heard these voices telling me that I had to go do it. I had this obligation, so to speak. They were getting me all mixed up. I didn't know what was black, white, upside down, or inside out. I mean, I'd still wake up in the morning like anybody else, drink a cup of coffee, smoke a cigarette. I'd say, what the hell? This time, that time, this, that. And then this alien thing comes in and says, hey, you got to do your job. You just got to do it. I'm some kind of subspecies. I had to prove myself to them. And they ate humans. They used them for food. I don't understand it at all, but I'm not sorry I did it. I wish I'd used a different tool to kill my father, though. I really do. It wouldn't have been so messy, and it wouldn't have been such hard work. Even the aliens were displeased about that." End quote. Christopher Rogers was obviously convicted of murder and attempted murder and was sentenced to 498 years in prison. Now, I know that this one, just like with probably all the other cases I'll cover here, most of you will just toss the explanations aside as the ramblings of crazed criminals with severe mental health issues and deficiencies, and that's okay with me because I understand why you all would think that. However, in playing devil's advocate here, which I oftentimes try to do, I will say that this could have been a case of some lower vibrational or possibly evil extraterrestrials overtaking his mind and feeding off of the fear or terror and even off of the souls of the man's victims. It also sounds to me like it could have been an actual case of demonic possession, but in our society, these sorts of things and explanations just don't fly, and so he never really stood a chance at a fair trial. That's just my opinion, though, so let's move on. There are many cases of murderers going on to explain and insist that extraterrestrials made them do it, but I also came across of some instances of people who committed lesser crimes who also made those same declarations. In October of 2017, a 31-year-old named Anufong Impachak was arrested for the crime of vandalism when he was accused of having, over a period of a week, spray painting the word DNA on several homes in the neighborhood he lived in, which was otherwise mostly peaceful Sheboygan, Wisconsin. He was also said to have broken a car window, caused other random damage to the neighbor's properties, dented a car, and even tried to burn a house down on more than one occasion. When the police arrested him, he was carrying a hatchet around in his pocket and had a strange and wild story to tell. He explained to the authorities that the reason he had committed all of those crimes, the vandalism, attempted arson, and others, was because extraterrestrials had given him an alien virus that had effectively changed his DNA. It also gave them total control over his mind so that he was compelled, without a doubt, to do their bidding. He insisted that although there was no reasonable explanation as to why ETs would be interested in causing general mischief in an otherwise nondescript neighborhood, his story was the absolute truth and he was sticking to it. He went on to say that the fires were his idea and not the ETs, and so they used quote-unquote black magic to put them out immediately and make sure that they didn't spread. He went on to explain more about the aliens, saying, quote, "They are switching dimensions all of the time, setting people up for a bad time. I'm telling you the truth. Alien virus to evolve mankind," end quote. He was ultimately charged with 2 counts of felony arson to a building, 2 misdemeanor counts of graffiti, 2 counts of criminal damage to property, and 1 misdemeanor count of carrying a concealed weapon. Now, I don't know enough about this man, his life, or his beliefs to make a reasonable assumption here, but I'm willing to make an educated guess. He was either absolutely telling the truth, and these aliens were looking to feed off of his lunacy and eventual fear and terror, all of the other lower vibrational emotions one must feel when incarcerated and unable to live their lives freely, or he was just mentally disturbed. I always say that a mental disease or disorder means there's something spiritually diseased or disordered, and I do believe that aliens taking over someone's mind simply to cause chaos is possible. But in this instance, with the little bit of information I have about this case, it seems like an awful lot of trouble when they could just sneak into someone's bedroom at night while they're sleeping and cause a sleep paralysis episode and feed off of that. Our next case involves someone personally connected to a current political figure who is either extremely loved or absolutely despised, and I'm making no political statements about anything here, and I'm just bringing to you all the facts of this case, which doesn't involve him directly, but I'll have to mention him, so please be adults and control yourself in my comments or you will be blocked. I will not platform hate or violence of any sort, and we should all be here to learn and to also have fun. In 2011, a 28-year-old man named Justin Massler was arrested for stalking Ivanka Trump, who at the time was not yet the first daughter of the United States, but who still led a somewhat high-profile life thanks to her very famous father. Over the course of the time he stalked her, Justin sent Ivanka some very creepy Twitter messages and some very, very bizarre emails. One of those included a photo of himself drenched and covered in what appeared to be blood. He also threatened to take his own life inside of Ivanka's high-end jewelry store on Madison Avenue in New York City. Ivanka was given a restraining order against Justin, but he didn't seem to care and violated it very quickly, making anything he did to or towards her from that point on a felony crime with a possible 4 years maximum prison sentence attached to it. During his trial, Justin continuously gave his address as, quote, a volcano in Hawaii, end quote, and he claimed he was doing all of this because he was under, quote, under some supernatural influences, end quote. He also said he'd been mind controlled by aliens. He'd posted some insanely bizarre videos to YouTube where he elaborated on his claim of having his mind overtaken by extraterrestrial entities, but in the end, he was placed in a mental health facility. In fact, he was placed in the mental health facility, if you're from where I'm from, which is Bellevue Psychiatric Ward. Normally, I wouldn't think too much of this, but considering Trump now holds the most powerful position in the world, I do have to stop and wonder. Did the aliens know that was coming and maybe somehow want to cause this chaos to disrupt the presidency? I mean, I don't know. I'm really just speculating here. In February of 2022, police in Georgia received a call from a panic-stricken woman who was repeatedly stating that someone was trying to kill her. When they arrived on the scene, they immediately noticed they were in the parking lot of a church, and the woman who called them was heavily bleeding and very terrified. Not too far away, there was a vehicle with the engine running and the wheels spinning. The doors were open, but no one was inside. The victim herself was disoriented, and she was immediately taken to the hospital while the officers searched for the perpetrator or perpetrators. As they were looking for the person or people who'd done that to the woman, their 911 call center received a call about a trespasser. This time, the crime was happening on the porch of a home that was local. The police showed up to the house just in time to apprehend a man named Joel Langford, and it didn't take long for the authorities to figure out that this was the same man who had allegedly attacked the woman in the church parking lot, whom they just rushed to the hospital. Joel said that aliens made him crash his car in the church lot and that they transported him onto the person's porch where he'd just been arrested. The officers thought immediately that something was wrong with him mentally, because from the church where his vehicle had been found and where they'd found the injured and panicked woman to the porch where they found him just then was a distance of at least 18 miles. So how did he get there? He seemingly thought he was still there in the church parking lot and was clearly disoriented himself. His speech was slurred severely, and his breath reeked like alcohol, according to the official police reports, and he was eventually charged with leaving the scene of an accident, driving while intoxicated, and failing to render aid. The woman eventually recovered from her wounds in the ordeal and explained that she knew Joel and had been voluntarily in the car with him at the time he crashed, and that everything else had happened. It's not clear still to this day, though, and this frustrates me to no end, why she told 911 that someone was trying to kill her. And unfortunately, there's nothing more to this story that I could find on the internet. This one did make me think that something strange was going on, something stranger than usual. Because why would she have claimed that someone was trying to kill her if she knew Joel was in his car voluntarily, and if her injuries were merely from the car accident and not from actually being attacked at all? What if she was attacked and entities were trying to kill her, or they had somehow overtaken Joel and he was trying to kill her? There has to be a reason she said that. But I can't find anything else. So maybe she just shut down and didn't want to speak about it because she was too scared or something. I really don't know. So what do you all think about these cases? Could it be that even just one of them was telling the truth? We know that Joel, in the final case, was heavily under the influence of alcohol, but then why would the woman get in the car with him in the first place? There's just not enough information for me to be able to draw any real conclusions. But what I will say is that regardless of whether of any of the stories I just presented to you all have anything to do with extraterrestrials or not, I definitely believe that sometimes aliens do mind control humans to do all sorts of things, normally by way of an abduction the human being more than likely doesn't or can't ever remember. Let me know in the comments, though, which of these you most believe is likely to have been true, if any. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me. Spread the love by sharing this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It helps me so much. Comment on the video. I just want to say that I know this video is very short. It's summertime, and many of you who follow me know that I have a little bit of a harder time working in the summer with my little guy home from school. So I've been kind of stacking short scripts to make sure that I have that Monday morning content for you all, because last summer I really couldn't get it together with only being able to work 1.5 days a week and keeping up with all of my social media and the interviews, the live streams, the TikToks, the shorts, doing this, writing books, and, you know, all that jazz. So bear with me just for the weeks of the summer. We're going to get back into regular scheduling, reactions, and a lot more once September comes. Also, if you're a member or patron, there's a lot more coming for you once the fall hits as well. So I just want to thank you guys so much for your patience with me, for your generosity. Please check out the description box for some important links, ways to donate to the channel, PayPal, Cash App, my Amazon wish list gift link. Also, you'll find links to all 14 of my books, Kindle, Audible, and paperback versions. If you can't find the link you're looking for or just want to see my books listed out, go to Amazon, type in Gemma Jade Books. Please follow me on TikTok. I only have I think 1,300 followers. You need 10,000 to get into the program where you can make money off of your TikToks. I'm going to be going live over there with mediumship readings, musical mediumship, possibly some automatic writing, definitely some oracle starting in the fall. I'm preparing for all of this summer, which is why the summer is going to be more low-key than normal. But that's because we're ramping it up come September, October, and moving into the fall and winter months. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook and follow me there. My name's either GemmaJade or GemmaJadeYT across all of the platforms. For more information about products I sell, services I offer, including personal intuitive oracle readings, whether remotely, where you don't even have to be there, you just give me a little bit of information and the payment, and I send you a private link to your reading that you can check out. Only you and I will be able to access and see it. Whether we do a video call for an hour to an hour and a half, my spiritual helper boxes, my sprays, my roller mists. I have so many products and services I offer that I don't think a lot of people know about, but you'll have to email me. Right now, it's just me, and I've got a lot going on, so I can't check PMs, DMs, TikTok, Facebook messages. You have to email me at GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with me for any and all correspondence, especially professional correspondence with questions about maybe things that I do, things I offer, readings, and the like. Also, if you have encounters with the supernatural, paranormal, extraterrestrial, otherworldly, send them to me for my listener encounter series. And I also may end up putting them in a book one day. So GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com for any and all correspondence. Be kind to each other, guys. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. If nobody told you today, you are amazing. You got this. Manifest nothing but the best for yourself with positive thought, positive words, positive actions. Put the actionable steps behind your thought manifestations. You are going to be just fine, no matter who believes it and who doesn't, as long as you believe in yourself. And I believe in you. I got your back. Always go in grace, smile at a stranger, and I'll see you guys next time. Mwah! Bye.